The following content has been provided by RWTH Aachen University.
So I'd like you to think about a couple examples here. Just take a minute with your neighbor. Think about 3 examples for objects that actually use constraints to help us use them correctly. You could try to find different examples for the different type of constraints. Physical is usually the easiest. Semantic, logical, cultural are a little harder. A great example area where you'll always find examples is kitchen appliances, security devices, or vending machines, those kinds of things. All right, you got 2 minutes. Go ahead. Let's collect some ideas here, and then I want to say one more word about constraints here. So ideas for constraints. Back half, your moment to shine. Right now. Yay! Go ahead.
For cultural constraints, in many countries we have this concept of gender. So if you want to go to a bathroom and a public building, you could go as a female person, you could go in a male toilet and it would work perfectly. And there's no logical constraints and no semantic constraints, but you expect to use a different tool.
Right. Very, very good point. And I think the iconography on these bathrooms is sometimes enough of a puzzle to figure out, is that actually indicating the male or the female person here? Okay, yeah, good example. Other examples, yes?
Physical constraint, the drawers from IKEA.
Mm-hmm.
You can push them really hard and close them really hard, but it won't.
It will stop at some point and then go slowly, so it doesn't break.
Slowly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there is no way to close this drawer quickly all the way, right? I'm physically kept from that by the braking mechanism. Yeah. Other examples? Come on, you had minutes to think about this. Yeah, back there.
Okay, so let's say you have a knife, and the only way to use the knife is at the handle. So you can't grip it at the actual blade, so that will cut you. That's a physical constraint.
Mm-hmm.
And you additionally have a semantic constraint when you, let's say, are trying to cut a banana, and you could use the wrong side of the blade to cut the banana because it's quite soft, but it would not make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's a semantic constraint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, those work. Physical one, actually a lot of more complex devices with the knife, the where you hold it, the handle is like very, very obvious. It still is a valid example. More complex devices always often actually use interesting indicators in their physical shape to tell you where to put your hands. If you take a pair of scissors, for example, you'll find there's a small gap often and a larger gap, and the larger gap is where your 2 fingers go, the small one is where your thumb goes. And so there are all these indicators that tell us how to hold and handle simple devices. Yes. One more, maybe? Yep.
Physical and semantic concept at the same time would be that you, if you want to drive with the train and you have to drive from the platform 2, and so you say, no, I want to drive from platform 1. And so in that case, you'll have the semantic constraint that you are at the wrong place, so you can drive from, so you can go to platform 1, but this is not the place where your train will be. And the physical constraint is that your train is not physically there.
Well, it's pushing the concept a little. And let me try to explain why. The point, we already also had this in discussion here, the point of these constraints is they are a design tool. So the point of view you should be using is, I am the designer of the train station or something, and I'm trying to put in constraints that keep people from making mistakes. Right? The point of a constraint is it's a design decision that I put in, just like in affordance, that keeps people from making mistakes. So in that respect, that would need a little tweaking, I think, your idea. But we had a little discussion here up front. What's up with the Renault key? The key that fits both ways into the car lock, but only works one way. Is it a physical constraint? Is it a semantic constraint? It's not a constraint at all. because it actually allows me to go down the wrong path, put in the key the wrong way around. It doesn't tell me beforehand that that's not supposed to be happening. So it lets me make the mistake, and then in the end I end up with the faulty situation that the key doesn't turn, right? So at that point I've already gone down a sort of an alleyway that is a dead end. I've already gone into a mistake, into an error situation, and I need to back up, pull the key back out, turn it around and put it in the other way around. Okay, so the constraint part here would be if the key actually clearly, visibly shows me that it will only fit one way, because then I won't make that mistake. I won't go down that path of making that mistake. That's important to understand. Constraints are trying to keep you from making mistakes. The most obvious, what's the most obvious constraint that we see in use in like a graphical user interface, a desktop application or something? Yeah?
Just graying out things.
Exactly. Yeah, grayed out buttons are buttons you can't push. You can like click on them as much as you want. They won't do anything. And that's a way to physically keep people from doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, because it would lead to a mistake, like trying to print when there's no document open, that kind of stuff. And there's also a problem with these kinds of constraints, which is visibility, right? Sometimes you have a grayed out menu option in like, I don't know, Photoshop, and you're like, why can't I use this right now? I don't understand what the reason is for not letting me do that. And that could be addressed by giving people a tooltip maybe when you're hovering over that item, telling you this is grayed out because, but it still is a constraint. Yes?
But is the graying out not cultural? Because we know that the grayed out buttons aren't pressable, but if you're not familiar with this.
Good point. I should say this differently. I should say the fact that we disable the buttons, that we make them unclickable, that's the physical constraint. You can't click them. If I was an evil designer, I would make them unclickable, but I wouldn't change anything in the visualization. And they would still look like you could click them, but you can't. That's like mean, right? So the physical constraint is the button is not clickable. It's not active. You can't activate it. And then, as we said, constraints only make sense if the user can see them, can perceive them. That's why we do something to the button to make it clear that it can't be clicked. And I agree. The fact that it's grayed out is something that you have to learn, that grayed out means I can't click it. It kind of is semi-obvious, maybe. If it was like green buttons can be, or I don't know, green buttons can be clicked, blue buttons cannot be clicked, that would be much harder to remember. But I agree, that is the second step of putting the constraint in place, making it visible, and there you may have to rely on cultural constraints, or on cultural norms or experience that people might have.
This content was provided by RWTH Aachen University.